Hello everyone, my name is Shane, and in this video we're going to be doing an unboxing and I'm going to give my first impressions on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. This phone is available for pre-order at the time of this video. I'll have some links in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. The retail price is $1,300. Comes in 7 different colors. We have yellow, violet, black, and this gray color we're going to be checking out here today. And there's 3 Samsung.com exclusive colors. We have green, blue, and orange. This phone comes in 3 different configurations. We have 256 gigabytes of storage, 512 gigabytes, and 1 terabyte. And it is worth noting that the base model this year does come with the 12 gigabytes of RAM, just like the other models. And Samsung is offering a free storage upgrade right now and a lot of other incentives that I'll leave for you down below. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Shout out to Samsung for sending out this review unit ahead of time. So we have our device on top. Let's see what else we get in the box. Inside the box, we have some paperwork, a SIM ejection tool, and a USB Type-C to Type-C cable. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the star of the show here, the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Again, have it here in the gray color. I'm actually really liking this gray color initially a lot. It's just a nice, clean finish to it. Of course, we have the new titanium sidings to go along with it. So I'm super excited to get into this phone. Starting with the physical tour of this phone, we have our volume rocker and power button here. These buttons are slightly larger than on last year's S23 Ultra. Have our 5G antenna. On the left side, we have nothing. On the top, we have 2 mics, and on the bottom, we have our S Pen on the left. For lefties like me, I absolutely love this. We have a slightly new-looking speaker grill here. It's just one large cutout instead of all the tinier little grills. We have our Type-C port, still capable of Samsung's 45-watt super fast charging 2.0. We have another mic, and then we also have our slot for our SIM tray. This fits just 1 SIM card and no expandable storage or anything here. Looking at these from the back, you really can't tell much difference between them at all. The only difference you're really going to find if you look closely enough is that we have a new lens here on the S24 Ultra. It's a new 50 megapixel 5x optical zoom. There's what looks to be maybe a larger lens inside this S24 Ultra. But now let's check the weight here because I was curious to see if there's any weight reduction from the titanium. So we're coming in at 234 grams. Now if we take the S23 Ultra from last year, that's also around the same exact weight, 235 grams. These titanium sidings are not for weight reduction here. It's just for added durability, and it does give the phone a very nice and premium feel if I haven't made that clear already. Taking a quick look at the S Pen, we have the gray to match the gray color here, and then our tip is going to match the titanium sidings of the phone. This also sits very nice and flush and flat against the phone, just sticks out a tiny little bit. But now taking our first look at the 6.8-inch display, do have some minor enhancements to this display over the S23 Ultra, which I think people will appreciate. Not as important, but we do have slightly smaller bezels at the top here. We also have a smaller hole punch cutout on the S24 Ultra, so that's nice. And what looks to be a bit more noticeable to me is on the bottom, there's a lot less bezel going on there as well. Most notable change on this S24 Ultra is we now have a flat display on this phone. Whereas on the S23 Ultra, the display still wraps over just a little bit, but the display is flat here on the S24 Ultra. It's just the bezel that is on the edges. We also have a slightly smaller phone overall because it's the same screen size and those bezels reduced a bit. So it's very minor, but everything is trimmed down a little bit. Of course, there's a lot more going on with this phone on the inside with the new AI features, some new camera features and things like that. So I'm going to set up this phone, use it in my personal life for a day, and I'll come back with my final first impressions on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. All right, so it's been a couple of days now since I first started using this phone. Definitely ready to share some of my first impressions with you guys. So getting into the phone, the biometrics, absolutely love the fingerprint sensor on this phone. Just tap it with your thumb and it just gets you in instantly every single time. Also have the face recognition up here on the smaller hole punch cutout. This also gets you in just as quickly and effectively. Just love getting into this phone instantly. Now taking a closer look at the 6.8-inch 1440p 120Hz dynamic AMOLED 2X display. I have been really enjoying this display so far in my first couple days of use. Now one of the more notable changes to my surprise is the fact that we have the flat display now on this S24 S24 Ultra. Now, the reason this is so noticeable, if you look over here at my S23 Ultra on the right, when you're in certain situations or certain lighting conditions, there's a lot of reflectivity going on the phone on the sides. Now, if we focus our attention over here on the S24 Ultra on that same left side, you notice that you're not having that reflectiveness going on. So there is actually a noticeable difference with the bezel change here. Something else I definitely noticed on this S24 Ultra is it gets very bright. So the new maximum brightness of 2600 nits is no joke on this phone. I had it outside yesterday in direct sunlight and I had sunglasses on and I could still see the display perfectly clear. And what's also been noticeable to me is that even though we have the flatter display on this phone, we still have a very rounded feel in the hand. Now, as far as navigation of the phone, it is worth mentioning that for some reason, Samsung removed the old swipe gesture navigation bar that I would always use on all my previous Samsung phones. So it's basically the button orientation, but you can swipe up. But now for whatever reason, it's not here on the S24 Ultra. So now there's always going to be this little bar at the bottom of the display. Now, granted, I have gotten used to it already in my first couple days of use. So you can go back on either the left or right of the screen, and then you just hold down in the middle and swipe up to get to your multitasking and other applications. And there is also the option to just swipe over and switch between your various applications. I think Samsung is making people use this new navigation bar because it also ties into the new circle to search feature. So if you hold down on that bar at the bottom and then circle with either your finger or the S Pen, you're able to look up anything instantly rather than having to switch over to Google or go to Chrome and look something up that you were researching on some other platform or app. You're able to just circle something, look it up right away, and then you can just dismiss the screen and move on to whatever it is you're doing. And mind you, this works on any application, any screen, able to look things up very easily. So I was actually using the S Pen on this S24 Ultra way more than any previous phone. So it is definitely worth considering the Ultra variant this year, even though all the S24 phones are going to have these same circle to search and AI features. So with all that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about Galaxy AI because there's a lot of AI elements incorporated in this phone, some cloud-based AI services from Google, and then also some hardware-based AI features on the Samsung phone directly. So when you're doing things like the circle to search, obviously the cloud-based Google AI is kicking in to be able to help you with those things. But when you're doing things on the phone itself, as far as photo editing and text editing and adjusting and things like that, those are hardware-based. A lot of the time when you're using the phone, you'll see this little icon in various places that tells you that you're going to be able to use some of the AI features. Now, at the most simple level, something like the text suggestions was really useful for me initially because after I write a long email, instead of having to read it over a couple times, check if I made any errors or typos, I can just run it through the text suggestion. And it's not only going to help me correct things that were wrong, it's nice to see a few different options of how to word something. This also works with translating text messages. As long as you have the proper languages downloaded onto the phone, it is going to be able to show you both languages at all times. So this is genuinely useful. Something else I think that could be really useful is that you can select a bunch of text and then you're able to organize it into a bullet point list, for example. But unfortunately, at the time of this recording, it seems like you can only select so much text and then it just kind of caps off and cuts you off. So it does feel like there is some limitation going on here as far as the text and character limits. But there's also a couple of AI features that I really enjoyed on the photo and video side of things. So for example, if you go in your gallery and play any video on this phone, it didn't even need to be filmed on this phone originally. You just hold down and it turns it into slow-mo for you. So it's using AI to fill in some of the missing pixels. And something that was even more interesting to me and seems to have a lot of potential and utility are all the photo editing features. So you're able to use AI in the photo editor to be able to move objects or resize objects. You can really alter and adjust pictures to your needs. So for example, here I took this picture outside yesterday. This is a 200 megapixel shot. Let's say maybe I want to move this sign over a little bit so it's not as centered in the picture. So I could just go over here to the edit, go over to the AI selection, and then I need to draw around the sign. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my S Pen. Another reason the S Pen is just really nice to have on this phone. It's going to clip to what it thinks you needed it to clip to, so it captures it really nicely. It's also worth noting that shadows have to be selected as well if you want that shadow to move alongside with the sign. Once you have your item selected, you can just hold down on it and it's going to move it to wherever you want to. So we'll go ahead and put it there. and we can hit generate. And whenever you do generate this, it does take a little bit of time to process. So in about 10 seconds or so, you'll have your result. You can see here that the shadow and the sign, I selected both of them and moved them over. And then my revised picture, that can be a little bit more out of the way. So you can really alter and adjust pictures to your liking. Now, with all the added functionality coming to this phone, we also have a camera update around back. So we now have a 5x optical lens on this phone instead of the 10x optical lens that was on all the previous Ultra phones. We now have this 50 megapixel lens, which is still going to give us optical results at that 10x zoom Samsung claims. I did do a couple tests of this. I'll let you be the judge initially here of which you think is better or if they're of the same quality. So that is in a sense the main justification for switching over to this 5x lens. So now when you open the camera app on this phone, you have a ton of options. You have the ultra wide lens, you have your standard lens, you have the 3x optical zoom, you have the new 5x optical zoom, and it still shows you the 10x zoom option. Now, something else I found with this S24 Ultra that I absolutely love is that now in the 4K 60 video mode, you're able to switch between your camera lenses in real time. For whatever reason, on the S23 Ultra, once you start filming in 4K 60, you're stuck to whatever lens you're on. You can digitally zoom a little bit, but the versatility is just not there at all. S24 Ultra, as soon as you start recording, you're able to switch between any of the different lenses. You have digital zoom capability up to 20 times digital zoom while you're filming, switching between all your different lenses. So I absolutely love this added versatility here. Now, Samsung also claimed that there's apparently clearer nighttime video. I tried to test this a little bit, and if you do push it to its extremes, I was out at nighttime. If you look in the distance of this video at the cars in the parking lot, on the S23 Ultra, they are a little more jittery, and then on the S24 Ultra, they're a little bit more cleaned up, but I'm gonna have to test this more because I'm not sure what is really groundbreaking here or all that different. All of my initial photos look great on this phone. Again, we just have so much versatility with all the different lens options. You can take 12 megapixel, 50 megapixel, 200 megapixel photos, and in the most simple of use cases, it still is really enjoyable to just have the S Pen in hand and be able to use that as a Bluetooth shutter for your camera. But now switching over to battery life, because this was another interesting area for me because we have this new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. We have a lot of new things going on with this phone as far as the AI processing and things like that. So overall, in my first full day of usage, I was able to get 7 hours of screen on time. This is running the phone at the 1440p resolution at 120 hertz refresh rate. As you saw previously in this video, I had this phone on maximum brightness for a lot of the time. I was doing a lot of photo editing, a lot of playing around with the AI features. It was spending a lot of time chugging through AI processes. So while the 7 hours screen time might not sound super impressive as far as a brand new flagship phone, I was throwing a lot at this phone in the past day. I was not going easy on the battery. Mind you, I also had the always on display on, which you could definitely turn that off and save a lot of battery. But overall, all things considered, after 2 days of personal use, I am really enjoying this S24 Ultra initially. I have really enjoyed the refinements being made to this phone as far as the nice feeling and looking titanium sides, having that slightly cleaned up bezel and display on the front, getting a ton of brightness to see this phone in literally whatever setting you're in. I have really enjoyed using the S Pen alongside all the new AI features and the photo and video editing. I definitely still need to do some more testing of the AI, but overall it makes it feel like this device has a lot of potential. But I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy S24 Ultra down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to the Shane Symonds YouTube channel today, since next up I'm going to be checking out and reviewing the official Samsung case lineup for this S24 Ultra. And I also just got the S24 and S24 Plus in the mail, so definitely stay tuned for videos on these phones as well. So until then, thanks so much for watching. Take care.